I call out a womp. I pray this devil die and get every evil thing the Lord God can give. And listen, I know you look at us in the state we in right now. Come here, SHALAM. Come here, SHALAM. I know you look at us in the state we in right now. Black people on drugs, and we suffering and dying. And I know it seems like you can do whatever you want to this people. I know it seems like this, but the time for glorifying yourself is soon at an end.
Everybody, this is the I.S.U.P.K. This is the I.S.U.P.K. So now the lecture is about World War III and how these attacks that we see is leading up to World War III, which was spoken of in the Bible. So now, if anyone wants anything to drink or wants anything to eat, it's just right at the back. So now, in the lecture, I'm going to hand it over to Priest and Officer Karafia, which his part is showing, according to the Bible, who are the real Jews, because many people believe that the people that you see in Palestine, they are the real Jews, and that they're fulfilling prophecies that are found out of the Bible. So we're going to debunk that and show you that the curses found in the Bible only fit the blacks and the Hispanics, showing you that you are, letting us hold this event here too as well. So, and also, hand for everyone that has supported, everyone that's also took part to, help make sure that this would work out too. So, so for everyone that's done so, give a hand for yourself as well. Louder, give a hand for yourself, everybody. It's a good work.
Today we're going to show you that the real Jews are black, that the real Jews are not white people. Next slide, please. So according to the Bible, the real Jews are black. Now we're going to go through history, biblical scriptures, archaeology, showing you that the real Jews of the Bible are not actually white people, but black people. Next slide, please. Again, many of you watch movies and cartoons and Christmas movies, and you think that the Jews look like this. Next slide. Or people like this movie called Jacob, they got a white man here playing a Jew when the real Jews are black, and we're going to prove that. Next slide. And this, Jeremiah, a white man playing us in a movie. Next slide, please. So we're going to go into the Bible, which everyone has at home. The same Bible you can get from W.H. Smith, Waterstone, The Works. And we're going to see if the real Jews are white people like what we saw in these movies, or if they're black people like what we are. Next slide. So again, we're going to go into the book of Deuteronomy. In the book of Deuteronomy, there's a list of curses that will happen to the Jews if they don't follow the Most High. We're going to see if them curses point to our people, or if they point to them white people, which we saw, and the same white people that they put in the movies and in the cartoons. Next slide, please. Again, I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'll read it out for you here. You got that down the bottom. We're going to go in Deuteronomy 28. We're going to read from, what verse is that? Verse 1. Read that for me out.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
So the Most High said to our people, if we follow, he said to the Jews, if we follow his laws, he'll set us on high above all nations. Give me verse 15.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So the Most High put a stipulation there. He said if the Jews would not listen to him, read on.
To observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So the Most High said if we don't follow his laws and rules, he'll put curses on us. Curses meaning punishments. Jump to verse 48.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder.
So these curses are upon the Jews for a sign and for a wonder. Keep that in mind. These curses are on the Jews for a sign. Next slide, please. Again, as you can see some signs there. So if you're driving and you see a stop sign, if you're driving and you're looking for a stop sign, these are things to look out for. So you look out for a for sale sign, you know if a house is for sale, and so forth and so forth. So what we're going to do is go through these curses and see who these signs fall upon. If they fall upon the so-called white man in Palestine who claims to be a Jew, or if they fall on our people. Next slide. And this is Deuteronomy 28:32. Read that for me out.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
So the Bible says the Jews' sons and daughters will be given to another people. Let's see if that falls upon our people or the so-called white man. Next slide. Again, as you can... Okay, so as you can see here, yeah, as you can see right here, yeah, you got a slave master taking a black baby from his black mom. As the first curse stated, it says your children shall be taken from you and given to another people.
Right.
And you see that right here. You see a man taking away a black baby from his black mom. Next slide. And again, you got another one. You got a slave master, the white man is the devil, taking away another child from the black mom. And they can't do nothing about it but watch. Next slide. Again, so this is a reference. You can all go to this reference and look it up yourself. It's called The Essay of the Slave, Legendary of Slavery in Maryland, written by Desiree Lee. And this is what she says. Slave children were often forced to move when they were sold to different slave masters. Many slave children were taken from their families as early as the age of, as early as 3 years old. Again, this talks about our people. When did this happen to the so-called Jewish man who lives in Palestine today? Okay, the Jewish man was taken to Germany and he was put in concentration camps, but his children weren't taken from him. This reference proves it as well. Next slide, please. Again, it's another reference. Slavery and the Making of America, the Slave Experience by Jennifer Hallam, and that's the reference also. And she claims when Africans were taken from their homes, they were forced into slavery, they were separated from their mothers, as we read in the curse. And remember, watch out for these curses. The curses are indications. And so far, this indication points to our people. They were forced into slavery, they were separated from their mothers, from their fathers, sisters, and brothers, and were torn from extensive kinship and networks. Next slide. So, the first curse, who did it happen to? Did it happen to people that look like this, or people that look like this? Next slide. Again, another curse. Read it for Dangaba.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
There you go, another curse, another sign, another indication. It says we shall beget sons and daughters, but not enjoy them. So we didn't get to play football with our sons, take them to the park, you know what I mean, take them to Disneyland, because they went into captivity. And as you can see here, a young sister working in the cotton field. Look how young that brother is there, working in the cotton field. You know what I mean? Somebody showed me where the so-called Jewish man who went through the Holocaust, where his kids was forced to work and go into captivity. That's nowhere in history. Next slide. Again, another reference, slave children, work and leisure time. And there's a reference also, the gang. As soon as children were big enough, they also had to work on the plantation. They were given tasks according to their age and strength. The slave children's work might consist of collecting dry sugarcane leaves, trash and baggage. So again, another indication. This points to our people, and references also back this up, along with the pictures I'm showing you, and also with the references I'm also showing you as well. Next slide. So who did that happen to? Whose kids were taken from them and forced to work? Did it happen to people like this? Or people like this? Next slide. Another curse in the Bible. Read that for me, Dangobar.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst.
So the Bible says we have to serve our enemies in hunger and in thirst. Meaning if we want food, we gotta go to their stores, their Tesco's, their Walmarts. Read on.
And in nakedness.
And in nakedness, meaning if we want clothing, we don't want no clothes shops. We don't want no raw materials. We gotta go to them. We gotta go to their JDs, their food shops, their clothes shops. Read on.
And in want of all things.
And in want of all things, meaning if you even want religion, education, a loan, you gotta go to your enemies for everything. Read on.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
And instead of our enemies, the white man, the devil, put a yoke of iron upon our neck. And as you can see there, there's a brother there with a yoke of iron upon his neck. You see some brothers here being led into captivity with yokes on their neck. Next slide. And as you see there, it says yoke. A forked wooden stick or yokes were used to tie captives together in a line or couple when they were marched to coast. They were forced, the forks were placed around the captive neck with an iron bar. And remember the scripture said you have a yoke of iron around your neck. And this is a yoke here. This again points to our people. Next slide. And this is the punishment color. It says Africans who resisted enslavement from the point of capture when they were enslaved tried to run away. So basically this is a yoke of iron which the Bible spoke about. And this is so slaves couldn't run away. So if they ran into bushes, they'll get tangled. Some cases, these yokes of iron even had bells on them, so the slave master could find out where he was going. So again, next slide. So again, the yokes of iron go on people that look like this, or people that look like this. All you gotta do is watch Roots, put in Google yokes of iron, you will see our people with chains on their neck, shackles on their feet. This man here, okay, he did go into concentration camps in Germany, but he didn't have yokes of iron on his neck.
Right.
His kids weren't forced to work in captivity. He went stripped from his family. Again, more curses. Next slide. Another curse in the Bible, when you read it, this points to our people, or the so-called Jewish man who we call Jews today. Read that for me.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother.
And that's the first part. It said that the man that is delicate among you, his eye shall be evil toward his brother. So you show me where the so-called Jewish man hates his own brother. When you walk up in Handsworth, Aston, Newtown, Brixton, Bronx, Kingston, and so forth, and you see black people that hate their brothers on a worldwide rate. You see gangs, world-star hip-hop, black girls fighting in the streets. This is the curse the Lord put on our people. If you go to Palestine today, the so-called Jews love each other. They invite each other in their houses for Sabbath and so forth. But read on.
And toward the wife of his bosom.
And towards his wife, who get evil towards his wife also. Read on.
And toward the remnant of his children.
Of his what?
Toward the remnant of his children.
Read on.
Which he shall leave.
Which he shall what?
Which he shall leave.
And what did it say about black men? They always leave their children. You show me where the so-called Jewish man is leaving his children. You show me where the so-called Jewish man had yokes of iron in his neck. But next slide. And this is what you see, man, all over the internet, on TV. This is the curse here, in effect. This is black people hating each other. Next slide. And look, this is some of the news. I chose Birmingham because it's local, and also these articles are not long ago. They're only like 2 months away. And look at this, it says boys shot in the streets. And this is only Nietzsche's down the road. This is that curse that we see. You don't get this among the so-called Jewish man. Next one. And all these articles are local, again. A man shot in Lausanne. Next slide. Again, Operation Trident. In London, they have Operation Trident. So to clamp down on all the gangs. And that's our people killing each other, as the Bible said. Next slide. Again, another shooting in South London again. And all these, I could have went to London, I could have went to Jamaica, I could have went worldwide, but I've kept it local and recent. Next slide. Again, another brother shot by another brother in his face. Next slide. Another brother stabbed to death just down the road in Smethwick 2 months ago. This is that curse right here that we spoke about we shall hate our brother. The so-called Jewish man ain't doing this. Next slide. Again, and it said, toward the remnant of his children which he shall leave. And this is some statistics in England. As you can see the white part there, that's the lone parents, just mothers alone. And look, among the black Caribbean, look how high he is. And it clearly says, this is a website as well, so the reference is there, you can go check it out yourself. It says, the incidence of lone parents appears highest among black mothers in England, particularly the black Caribbean mothers. Again, so this is that prophecy. And also, this is just England. I kept it just to England just to show, just to relate. But also, all over the world, our people are going through these curses because they are a sign for a wonder. So we got to look at these signs and see who they point to. Next slide. So, does this happen to this man or this man? Do people like this grow up with no fathers? Do people like this, dad leave when they're young? Or do people like this, fathers leave? Next slide. Again, another curse, Deuteronomy 28:64. Read that for me out.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth, even unto the other.
So it said the Most High did scatter us. And you go to France, you see black people, America, Jamaica, Guadalupe, England, Brazil. We are scattered. The so-called Jewish man, okay, he's in certain parts of Europe, but he migrated. He migrated to those parts of the earth. We were scattered, forced on ships. But read on.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known.
So it says we shall be scattered, and in these lands we shall serve wood and stone. Next slide. And this is another reference. I'm not sure if you can see it, but this is the slave trade journeys. And we came from here. This is where the so-called white man found us. And look at all the places he scattered us to pick cotton, cane, tobacco, all these places. This is us being scattered into all nations, as the Bible said. Next slide. And it said, in these lands we shall serve wood and stone. The wood represents the Christian church. As you can see, our black people full out the churches. That represents this wooden cross right here. Next slide. And stone. These are the two prominent religions our people are in. You see, the average black man is either a Christian or a Muslim. And this is biblical prophecy right here. The so-called Jewish man, all of them, you don't see so-called Jewish men filling out the church. You don't see so-called Jewish men in the mosque, but you see our people in there, more signs and more indications of who the real Jews are. Next slide. So again, did that happen to this man? Do you see this man in the Christian church? Was this man scattered from one end of the earth to the other? Or was this man scattered? The answer is this man. This is the man that lives in New York, the Bronx. He lives in Jamaica, Haiti, Guadalupe, Brazil. This is the man that was scattered. People like this are the ones that fill out the Christian church and also fill out the mosque. But next slide. Another curse, Deuteronomy 28 verse 68. Read that for me again.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
And the word Egypt or Egyptos is the Greek word for bondage. And it says the Lord shall bring us into slavery again with ships. Who else went into slavery by the way of ships? The so-called Jewish man never.
Right.
He was in Germany when they rounded him up. But we went into slavery with ships. And this is documented in the Bible. And as you can see there, slave ships, brothers being crammed in like sardines, brothers here naked on the slave ships. Read on.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
And we ain't seen our homeland no more. Not many black people are in Jerusalem today. But read on.
And there ye shall be sold.
We shall be what?
Sold.
We shall be what?
Sold.
And we shall be sold, read on.
Unto your enemies.
Unto our enemies. So these people that put us into slave ships are not our friends. Right. I know a lot of us want to migrate with them, love them, right, but they're not our friends. The Bible said they're your enemies. And what shall we be sold for?
For bondmen.
For slave man, read on.
And bond women.
And bond woman. The so-called Jewish man, okay, he was put into concentration camps, but he was sold. He was sold, his daughters were sold, we were sold. And this only points to our people. No one on the face of the earth can stake claim to these curses or these indications or these signs. Read on.
And no man shall buy you.
And it says no man shall buy us, meaning old Quaker English. The word buy is old English for save you. No man shall redeem you. And no man has. Marcus Garvey tried, still in slavery. Malcolm X tried, still in slavery. Martin Luther King tried, still in slavery.
Right.
Read on. Okay. Next slide. And again, slave ships. It says slave ships were large cargo ships, specially converted for the purpose of transporting slaves. Again, our people only. We was put on slave ships. No one else can stake claim to that. Next slide. And it said, we shall be sold for our enemies. Look what you see there. A black family on an auction block and slaves looking and placing a bid to buy them. And the curse says, you shall be sold to your enemies. And as you can see here, a black woman being sold. You got the auctioneer here, you got the buyers there, and they want to sell this black woman to work in the field, to pick cotton, cane, tobacco, and etc. You know? Next slide. And as you can see there, a bill of sale. To be sold, a cargo, 94 prime healthy Negroes. The sign looks like with some merchandise. 400 Negroes to sale. Again, we were sold. Show me where the so-called Jewish man was sold into slavery. Give me the next slide up. Again, a bill of sale. And it says the bill of sale above documents the purchase of 2 African American children by Louis O'Brien. So again, we were sold, and this is the bill of sale and the explanation on the bottom. Next slide. Again, so who was sold to slavery? Was it people that look like this? Or the people that look like this? And we all know that the black man was sold into slavery on cargo slave ships. Next slide. Another curse or indication. Read that for me out.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So the Most High said, among these nations where we are scattered, we got to become a proverb and a byword. Next slide. Let's find out what this word proverb is. And a proverb, a short, well-known, pitiful saying. So it's like among these nations, we're going to be a saying, like people say black people are lazy, black people are ugly, black people don't want to get jobs, the black man's worthless, the black woman's a whore. That's the saying that the Most High is talking about. And I went on Google, all you got to do is type in, why do black people? And stop there, and look. Why do black people say axe? Why do black people like fried chicken? So again, that curse points to us. We're a proverb and astonishment among these nations. Next slide. Again, nigger, jigaboo, negro, sambo, black, coon. In Britain we got gollywog. We're that proverb that the Bible spoke about. Next slide. And again, this is the Song of Solomon. Read it for me, in the Bible. To show me that the real Jews are black. King Solomon, one of the greatest Jews, is written up in the Bible, in the Song of Solomon, where he states himself that he's black. Get that for me out. And the scriptures up here, if you all can see it. When you get that, let me know, yeah?
Songs of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 5. I am black.
What did Solomon say?
I am black.
And King Solomon said he is black. Now we all know the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, because you got a lot of people that like to say Solomon was talking about his condition. He's saying that he was down, he was feeling down. But we're going to see if that's true. So here's the Hebrew. I am black, and that's the word there, shakor. So look out for that word, yeah? The word is shakor. Next slide. And there's that word again, shakor, also written there. And it says to be black of skin, not talking about his condition, talking about his skin complexion. So King Solomon, who was a Jew, says he was black. Again, proving that the real Jews are black and not so-called white people. And the reference is here, the Blue Letter Bible, in case anyone wants to check it up as well. Next slide out. Again, another scripture proving that the Jews were black. Acts 13:1. When you get there, read that for me out, yeah?
Acts chapter 13 verse 1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers as Barnabas and Simeon.
So we're talking about in Antioch, the prophets, which are the Jews, like Barnabas and Simeon. Everyone knows about Simeon, Peter, Paul, the prophets. You know, we all see pictures of Christ in the Last Supper. All his apostles are white. But according to the Bible, let's see if there was white or there was black. We know?
That was called Niger.
Called what?
Niger.
Called what?
Niger.
Now we're going to look into this word here, Niger. We're going to see what this word means, because it says Simeon and Barnabas were called Niger. So let's look further into this word Niger. Next slide. Again, New Testament was written in Greek, Old Testament written in Hebrew, and this is the word here, Niger. Niger, it says to be black, the surname of Prophet Simeon. So the disciples were called Niger, meaning they was called black, and that's where you get the word Negro from, the word nigger from. Next slide. And this is the definition of the word nigger, the derogatory term that everyone hates so much. And look what, keep in mind that word Niger here, at the bottom, late 16th century, from earlier nigger, after Latin Niger. So the word nigger, which people hate today, comes from that same word which they called Barnabas and Peter, which is Niger, meaning that they was black. Next slide. Revelations 2 and 9, read up me up.
Revelations chapter 2 verse 9. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty.
So this is the Most High speaking to the real Jews, and he's saying he knows our works, tribulation and poverty, because our people's poor, you know, our people are the world way. We've got a few of us that are rich, but our people are the ones that struggle to keep the light on, struggle to pay the bills. At a global rate, our people are poor. Next slide. So how can he be talking to the so-called Jewish man when the so-called Jewish man owns all these things? They ain't poor. They own Warner Brothers, TJ Maxx, you know, Nestle. As a nation, they ain't poor. But as a nation, we are poor. We ain't got our own army. We don't own our own schools. You know, even countries like Jamaica, where the government's black, England gives them certain grants and certain money. We don't have our own nation. We don't have our own government. A white man speaks for us in the UN. Next slide. Read on the rest of Revelation 2 and 9.
Revelations chapter 2 verse 9. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not.
So the Most High saying, in the last days, the people that say that they are Jews and they are not. So who are these people? Our people don't call ourselves Jews. We call ourselves Jamaican, African American, Afro-Caribbean, Black, British. And the Most High saying in the end days, there's certain people calling themselves Jews, and that's these people. But read on.
But are the synagogue of Satan.
And these people are the synagogue of Satan. These people promote the porn industry, the drugs industry, they follow all the wars. Next slide. And this is Revelations 1 and 14, the description of Jesus Christ himself. Read it with me up.
Revelations chapter 1 and verse 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool.
So it's talking about Jesus Christ, and saying his head and his hairs was white like wool. White being the color, wool being the texture. So again, who has woolly textured hair on this planet? It's not the so-called Jew, it's not the white man, it's our people. Or read on.
As white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire.
Because if you read in the Bible, Jesus Christ drank wine, so the whites of his eyes were red. And he also was stressed out with healing people, battling the Pharisees, so his eyes were red. Read on.
And his feet.
It says, and his feet, like everyone knows on your feet you have skin, and your skin also has a color. But read on.
And his feet like unto fine brass.
And it says Christ's feet was like brass, and brass is a derivative of brown. But we're going to see how dark his feet was. Read on.
As if they burned in a furnace.
And it says Christ's feet was like the burn in a furnace. If you burn anything, it's very dark. So Christ's feet was dark, meaning his legs were dark, meaning his torso was dark, meaning his face was dark, making Christ a black man, according to the Bible. Read on.
And his voice as the sound of many waters.
Okay, next slide. So, according to what we just read, would Jesus Christ look like this?
No.
He wouldn't. Christ's feet was like the burnt in a furnace, and he had white woolly hair. This man here does not have woolly textured hair. Next slide. Again, this is another book proving that the blacks are Jews. It's The Black Image in the White Mind, written by George M. Frederick. Like, this is a book that took nearly 100 years to make. So it's two people going at it. You got the abolitionists and the people that fought slavery. So they were saying, they was going at, having that debate, saying if black people should be slaves and what we should do with them. So according to their understanding, Africans should be slaves. That's their understanding. So they were saying if the black people in America are African, then they deserve to be slaves. If they're not, then what shall we do with them? So what they did was they went to Egypt They looked at the archaeology on the wall, they checked the bones, and they checked all the skeletons. And look what they found. Next slide. And it reads here, it goes, the racial significance of the Egyptian tomb inscriptions in Crania Egyptica, published in 1844, Morton pointed out. So as they went out there, they looked at the craniums, which means the heads of the mummies, the writings on the wall, the hieroglyphs, and this is what Morton pointed out. Morton pointed out that both the cranial, meaning the size of the heads of the bones and all the mummies, and the archaeological evidence, meaning the writing on the walls, the relics they found, showed that the Egyptians were not Negroes, as abolitionists and colonialists had maintained. So they thought that we were Africans, but according to this old man's research, he found out that we are not Africans. Well, look what he found out, and that in fact the blacks had been regulated to the same servile position in ancient Egypt. So when they searched the bones, our bones matched the servants in Egypt and not the Egyptians themselves. So if our bones match the servants in Egypt, then what does that make us? Anyone know? If our bones match the slaves in Egypt, which were the Jews, then what does that make us? The Jews. Next slide. Again, another reference proving that we're not black. The Bible, Zondervan Bible Pictorial Dictionary, and it says Ham. Now, Ham is the forefathers of what you call Africans today. It said Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably 96 years before the flood, and came one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor, meaning the father, of the dark races, not the Negroes. So Ham is the father of the Africans, was the father of all the dark races, which is the Africans, but not the Negroes, which we are. When we came off the slave ship, they called us Negroes. But, I mean, this who he is the father of? The Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, meaning South Africans. So he also did research and found out that we're not the same as the Africans. We're separate from them, and in fact, we are the real Jews of the Bible. Next slide. Again, so many of us seen movies like this, the 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston. Now we're going to go and see how Moses looked like, and we're going to see Moses look like this. Next slide. Read that for me now. Exodus 4 and 5.
Exodus chapter 4 and verse 5. That they may believe that the Lord, God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, have appeared unto thee.
Okay, so what's happening here is Moses is speaking to the Most High, and he's saying to the Most High, when I go to the Jews, they're not going to believe me, so what should I do? So the Most High is going to give him a sign and a miracle, so when he goes to them, they will believe him. We're going to read that miracle. Read verse 6.
And the Lord said furthermore unto him, Put now thine hand into thy bosom.
So the Most High told him to put his hand in his bosom, meaning to put his hand in his coat. Read on.
And he put his hand into his bosom.
And Moses put his hand into his bosom. Read.
And when he took it out,
and when he took his hand out, read.
Behold, his hand was leprous as snow.
So when he took his hand out, his hand was white as snow. Read.
And he said, Put thine hand into thy bosom again.
So the Most High said, put your hand back into your bosom again. Read.
And he put his hand into his bosom again.
Read.
And plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh.
So Moses put his hand into his bosom, pulled it out, and his hand was white. So if Moses was already white, how could that miracle take place? For that miracle to take place, Moses had to be a black man. Next slide. So could Moses have looked like this, according to what we just read? For Moses' hand to be turned white in a miracle, could Moses have looked like this? Again, this is a lie which the white man, who's the devil, tells our people and puts into the entertainment and into the books and into the education system. Next slide. So according to the Bible, the real Jews are black, as was proved. A couple of scriptures, couple of archaeological evidence. Next slide. Again, so my last question, do the Jews look like people like this? Or people like this? Again, the real Jews, according to the Bible, the real Jews are black. I'm handing it back to the officer and priest Parasha. He's going to edify some more.